The market of forbidden tastes. The twin suns had just dipped below the jagged skyline of Zarkon City, casting the sky in dark purple light. Beneath the metal towers and glowing signs, hidden under layers of smoke and steam, was a place most aliens never dared to go, the black market of forbidden tastes. It wasn't on any map. It had no door. But if you followed the smell, a strange mix of roasted spices and something sweet, you'd find it. And Zelia had found it. She was small for her age, her skin a pale blue, with long silver hair tied behind her ears. Her stomach growled. She hadn't eaten in 2 days. Her mother was sick. Her little brother cried every night in hunger. She needed credits. Badly. That's why she came here. The market buzzed with noise. Strange creatures from across the galaxy stood at stalls, yelling, bartering, sniffing. Some wore cloaks. Some had too many eyes. Some had none. One alien sold grilled scarn worm legs. Another had fried pulsar eggs, glowing bright green on sticks. But none of that was why Zelia had come. She followed the crowd to the far end, to a tent made of dark fabric and gold thread. The air grew thick, hot, heavy. A guard stood outside the entrance. He was tall, red-skinned, and carried a shock spear. No entry unless you're a buyer, he growled. I'm just cleaning up, Zelia lied, showing a fake ID badge. The guard glanced at it, grunted, and let her pass. Inside, it was silent. No yelling, no sales talk, just quiet whispers like a religious place. Alien nobles in expensive robes moved slowly, staring at a glowing display case in the center. Zelia stayed low, sweeping the floor with a dry mop as cover, pretending to clean. But her eyes were wide with curiosity. The display case held tiny, glass bottles about the size of a finger. Each bottle had a gold cap and was filled with a glowing golden liquid. There were only 3 bottles. Each had a label: human nectar. Source: Earth. Grade: pure. Zelia's mouth went dry. She had heard stories, crazy old stories, about a planet called Earth. A death world, they said. A place so dangerous even machines avoided it. But humans, they were rare, nearly impossible to find. And here in this room their blood, nectar, was being sold as a delicacy. She moved closer, hiding behind a curtain. A short green alien in a fur coat stepped up to the seller. I'll pay 10,000 credits for the grade 1, he whispered. The seller, a tall alien with dark scales and long fingers, smiled. Too low, he said. This one is pure. Straight from the source. He was healthy, young, fearless. You can taste the strength. Zelia's stomach turned. He was... She realized what they meant. This nectar, this golden liquid, was taken from a living human. Maybe not even taken. Maybe drained. Another alien stepped forward. A noble woman with golden armor and glowing eyes. I'll offer 50,000 credits, she said. The room fell silent. The seller nodded slowly. Sold. She took the bottle with care like it was the heart of a god. Zelia couldn't believe it. She wanted to run, but she had to see more. Behind the seller, she noticed a locked door. 2 guards stood in front of it, but the sound, very soft, came through. A moan. A voice. Human. Still alive. Her breath caught. She gripped the mop tightly, hand shaking. There was a man behind that door. A human. Still breathing. Still trapped, and they were draining him. Not killing him quickly. No. Keeping him alive just enough to keep the nectar flowing, like a fruit farm. She stumbled backward. The mop hit a glass. It fell and shattered. The room turned. Everyone looked at her. The seller's eyes narrowed. Who is she? The guard shouted. She's not on the staff list. Catch her. Zelia dropped the mop and ran. She darted, past the curtain, pushed through the tent flap and sprinted into the crowd. Angry voices shouted behind her. A flash of red light sizzled past her ear. She didn't stop until she was 3 blocks away, hiding behind an old trash unit, breathing hard. Her heart pounded. She had seen a human. A real one. And worse, she knew what they were doing to him. That night, she sat beside her sick mother and little brother. She fed them both the stale bread she found earlier, but her mind was still in that dark tent, still hearing that human's weak cry. She whispered to herself, "They're monsters." Then she paused, looked down. "No, we're monsters." The captive from Earth, he awoke in darkness. The air was cold, wet. Strange liquid dripped slowly from somewhere above. Elliot opened his eyes, but all he saw were shadows. A soft humming filled the silence, like machines breathing. Then came the pain. It wasn't sharp, it was slow, deep, like something was pulling from inside his bones. He looked down and saw thin tubes connected to his arms, his neck, even under his ribs. They led to a large glass container. Inside it glowed a soft gold, the same color as honey. He tried to speak, but his throat was dry, too dry. He had no idea how long he'd been here. Days? Weeks? Maybe more. Suddenly the lights turned on. Blinding white beams lit the room. Elliot squinted. Now he could see clearly. He was trapped inside, a smooth glass chamber lying on a padded table. Strange machines surrounded him. Alien symbols flashed on nearby monitors. The walls were made of black stone, humming with energy. And behind a glass window, something was watching him. 2 aliens. One tall and covered in silver skin, with glowing, orange eyes. The other short and wide, wearing a lab coat. They stared at him like farmers checking on their best crop. "He's still alive," said the short one. "Good. The nectar flow is stable." "He resisted at first," said the tall. "But now he's adjusting. The body has adapted to the drain." The short one walked closer to the window and tapped the glass. Elliot couldn't hear the words, but he could feel them. They were talking about him like he was a machine. Or a thing. Not a man. Then he saw it. A shelf on the far side of the lab, 10 glass vials, each filled with golden liquid. His liquid, human nectar. Elliot's stomach twisted. His mind screamed, but his body was too weak. He couldn't move, couldn't fight. All he could do was breathe and be drained. He remembered how he got here, my only pieces. He was on Earth, a field researcher working in the mountains. Then one night, a flash in the sky, a noise like thunder, a ship, aliens. They took him before he could run, before he could even scream. Now he was their prize. The door opened. The tall alien entered the chamber. It carried a metal device, like a scanner, and held it over Elliot's chest. "You are the strongest human we've captured," the alien said, its voice cold. "Most of your kind break within days, but not you. Your fear is low, your will is high, your nectar is rich." Elliot tried to speak. Just one word. "Why?" The alien paused, surprised. "You speak," it said. "Not many do. You should not have the strength." "Why? Me?" Elliot whispered. The alien stepped back. "Because you are rare, and because your pain tastes sweet." It left the room. Alone again, Elliot looked around. He noticed a small crack in the glass above, just big enough to see the outside hallway. Shadows moved. A janitor, a girl with pale blue skin. He didn't know it, but that girl was Azealia, and she had stopped. Just for a second. Their eyes met through the crack. Elliot didn't move, didn't speak. But he saw the way she stared. Not like a scientist. Not like a monster. Like someone who saw a person, not a product. Then she was gone. But Elliot held on to that moment like a lifeline. Hope. The only thing they hadn't drained from him yet. The alien who couldn't taste it, Azealia couldn't sleep. The image of the human man's face, and pale, weak, but still alive, kept flashing in her mind. His eyes didn't look like an animal's. They didn't look like something that should be eaten. They looked like hers. She lay on the hard floor of her family's small home, beside her sick mother and hungry brother. The city lights outside blinked through a broken window. Her hands trembled, not from cold, from guilt. That man was suffering. And the others, the rich aliens, they were paying to drink what he bled. She remembered how their mouths had curled in pleasure, how they whispered about flavor, texture, and strength. One alien had said, "The braver the human, the better the taste." Zelia's stomach twisted. She covered her ears. But the words wouldn't go away. The next day, she was sent to clean tables at a high-class restaurant in the upper towers of Zarkon City, a place only the richest aliens ever entered. She wore a gray uniform and kept her eyes low. Inside, gold. Walls shined like fire. Alien nobles laughed, sipping glowing drinks. At one table, a fat merchant waved her over. "You," he said. "Bring me the special sample." Zelia nodded and rushed to the kitchen. The chef was there, tall, with 4 arms and a diamond eye. He was stirring something golden in a silver bowl. He looked at her and hissed, "Take this to table 9. Careful, it's nectar, grade 1. Earthborn. Her hands froze, her heart raced. The human nectar, fresh, still warm. She stared at the bowl. The golden liquid shimmered like sunlight trapped in honey. It didn't look like pain. But she knew better now. She had seen where it came from, who it came from. And he had looked straight at her. At the table, the fat merchant smiled. "Finally," he said, licking his lips. Zelia placed the glass down but didn't leave. She watched. He raised the drink and took a slow sip. His eyes rolled back in delight. So bold," he whispered. The human must have been young. Zelia's hands curled into fists. The merchant noticed her. "Want a taste, girl?" he said, laughing. "You'll never afford it in your lifetime, but I'll let you try a drop." She didn't answer. "I insist," he said, dipping his finger into the golden liquid and holding it out. She stared at it. Everyone in the restaurant was watching now. The nobles giggled. The chef watched from the door. She slowly leaned forward, then stopped. She shook her head. "No," she said. The merchant frowned. "What?" "I don't want it." "Are you mad?" he snapped. "This is the best taste in the galaxy." "No," she said again. "It tastes like suffering." The table went silent. Then came laughter. Loud, sharp, cruel. The chef stormed over. "Apologize," he barked. "Right now." But she didn't. She took off her apron, threw it on the floor, and walked out. That night, she didn't return home. She sat alone near the city's waste vents, looking up at the sky. She thought about Earth, about the human trapped in that lab, about the crack in the glass where their eyes had met. She hadn't known him, didn't even hear his voice, but something had passed between them. Something silent and strong. He was real. Not food. Not a product. A person. And now, she knew what she had to do. Somewhere far below, in the dark basement lab, Elliot still lay, inside the glass chamber, still breathing, still bleeding. But that night, he smiled. He didn't know why, but somehow in the silence hope had returned. She breaks the rules. The night air was sharp and cold as Zelia moved through the shadows of Zarkon City's lower levels. The towers above sparkled like stars, but down here the only light came from flickering neon signs and trash fires. She wore a stolen cleaner's uniform and carried nothing but a small toolkit and a fake ID chip. Her mind screamed at her to stop. This was suicide. The black market wasn't just illegal. It was protected by killers. But she couldn't forget his eyes. The human in the glass chamber. Elliot, still alive. Still being drained. She couldn't sleep while he suffered. Tonight she would free him, or die trying. Zelia followed the path she remembered. Past the broken pipes. Down the silent hallway behind the spice vendor. Then under the rusted gate where the guard took bribes. She whispered to herself, "Stay small. Stay calm." The black market tent loomed ahead, the same one where the golden nectar had been sold. But this time she didn't enter through the front. Instead, she slipped into a small alley behind it and found the ventilation shaft she had spotted days ago. She opened it with shaky fingers and crawled in. Metal walls were tight. Dust filled her nose. She couldn't breathe properly. But after 10 long minutes, she reached a grating that looked down into the lab, and there he was. Elliot, still strapped down, still connected to the tubes, still breathing. His skin was pale, his lips dry, but his eyes were open and he saw her. Through the vent, their eyes locked again. Hope. This time it wasn't just a glance. It was a promise. I came back for you. She climbed down quietly, hiding behind machines and boxes. The lab was empty for now. A feeding cycle had just ended. The scientists had gone to process the nectar, but she didn't have much time. She rushed to Elliot's chamber. The door was locked. Of course it was. She pulled out a small device on a homemade signal spoofer. She had copied the lab's security tones from her last cleaning shift. Her hands trembled as she inserted it into the panel. Beep, beep, beep access. Granted. The door hissed open. The scent hit her first. Chemical, bitter, metallic. Elliot looked worse up close. The tubes in his arms twitched. His breath was shallow. She rushed to him. I'm here, she whispered. I'm getting you. Out. His lips moved, barely making sound. Why? You? She didn't answer. She just started unplugging the tubes one by one. Each time she pulled, he winced in pain. But he didn't stop her. I'm sorry, she said. This will hurt. But it ends tonight. She grabbed a cloak from the supply cabinet and wrapped it around him. But as she helped him stand, alarm! Red lights exploded across the lab. Motion sensors had triggered. Footsteps. Shouts. The guards were coming. Zelia's heart pounded. She pulled Elliot's arm over her shoulder. He was heavy. Too heavy. But she didn't care. They limped toward the exit. She opened the side door. Just as a gourmage enforcer entered from the other side. He was massive. His chef's robe was blood red. His arms were knives. Thief, he growled. Elliot leaned weakly on her. Go. Leave me. No, she hissed. She grabbed a small chemical flask from the nearby table and threw it at the enforcer's face. It exploded in a puff of blue smoke. He roared and swung blindly. She and Elliot darted past him and into the hallway. More guards, more shouts. Lasers fired past her. One beam burned her sleeve, but she didn't stop. They reached a service tunnel. She threw Elliot onto a maintenance hover sled and slammed the controls. The sled zoomed through the tunnels, sparks flying from the sides. She didn't know where they were going. She just knew they had to get far away. Behind them, the black market roared with anger. The human was gone. The supply, broken. The taste of their perfect delicacy, now lost. But Zelia didn't care. For the first time in her life, she wasn't cleaning someone else's mess. She was fighting for something good, or someone. The escape begins. The hover sled blazed. Through the dark service tunnel like a spark in a wire. Zelia gripped the controls tight, her hands shaking, her breath heavy. The hum of the engine mixed with the echo of alarms behind them. Red warning lights flashed on the tunnel walls like angry eyes. Beside her, Elliot lay on the sled, barely conscious, blood still dripping from the wounds where the tubes had been. He groaned, voice weak. Where are we? Anywhere but... There, she said. Hold on. Please don't pass out. Behind them, the gourmage enforcers were coming. Not just guards anymore. The black market had triggered a full lockdown. They were hunting the one thing they never lost before. A living source. They burst out of the maintenance tunnel into the underdistricts, a maze of old structures, junkyards, and forgotten tech. Zelia took sharp turns, dodging rusted scrap piles and collapsed cables. Above, a scout drone spotted them. Beep, beep, she cursed under her breath. The drone lit up, scanning Elliot's body. Target identified. Valuable asset. Orders. Retrieve alive. Resistance. Lethal force authorized. A high-pitched screech filled the air, and two hunter bikes launched from the shadows. Metal wheels, plasma engines, armed with net guns. Celia yanked the sled into a narrow alley. The bikes followed, faster. Elliot whispered, "They won't stop." "Will they?" "No," she said. "You're worth more than a starship to them." She didn't tell him the worst part. Some aliens would kill to make sure no one else could taste what they'd tasted. If the human couldn't be recovered, he would be destroyed. They sped past a collapsed bridge. Zelia hit the brakes hard and skidded into a side tunnel. The bikes overshot, but turned quickly. One fired a plasma net. It missed by inches, burning. A hole into the wall beside Elliot's head. She swerved again and spotted a broken lift shaft ahead. Rusted. Dangerous. But maybe their only chance. "I'm sorry," she whispered. She drove the sled straight into the shaft. Crash. They dropped 3 levels. Metal screeched. Sparks flew. Elliot screamed. They landed hard on a lower platform. The hover sled sputtered, then died. Smoke rose, but they were still alive. Above them, the hunters searched the upper levels, confused. Celia coughed, crawling to Elliot's side. "Are you okay?" His voice was just a breath. "I think a few ribs are now dust." She smiled weakly. "Still breathing?" "Barely." "That's enough." She dragged him into a broken service room and hid behind old supply crates. For now, they were safe. But the silence only made the fear louder. Celia stared at Elliot. This human, this so-called Nectar source, he didn't look powerful. He didn't look like a prize. He looked like someone who had suffered for too long and didn't know why. She reached into her pouch and took out a tiny water pack, her last one. "Drink," she said, placing it at his lips. He took a small sip, then another, then closed his eyes. "Thank you," he whispered. She blinked fast. "Don't thank me. I was part of it. I cleaned their floors. I brought them their plates. You didn't taste it, did you?" She shook her head. "I couldn't," she said, "because it wasn't food, it was you." For a long moment they sat in silence, listening to the humming of distant drones. Then Elliot opened his eyes again. "Celia, why did you come back?" She didn't answer right away. Then softly, "Because I wanted to stop being a part of something cruel. I wanted to save at least one thing in this galaxy." She smiled faintly. "And maybe because you looked at me like I was real." But their moment of peace was short. Outside, a deep mechanical growl echoed through the halls. Large shadow moved past the cracked doorway. Not drones, not guards. The master chef. He had come himself, 7 feet tall, heavy, slow, silent. He carried a cleaver made of neutron metal, and he wanted his ingredient back. Zelia stood and grabbed a metal rod from the debris. "Stay down," she said. "If he finds us, run. You can't stop him." "I don't have to stop him," she said, eyes sharp. "Just slow him." The taste of freedom. The corridor outside the ruined service room fell into silence. Then, clang, clang, clang. Heavy footsteps echoed in slow rhythm. Not the rush of guards, not the hum of drones. The master chef was close. He moved like a hunter, not a cook. His cloak of fire-resistant mesh trailed behind him like black smoke. His eyes glowed red through a silver mask shaped like a skull. On his belt hung a golden vial, half full. Human nectar. The last batch, from Elliot. Celia tightened her grip on the metal rod in her hand. Her knees shook, but her heart didn't. "I won't let him take you," she whispered. Elliot, lying behind a crate, forced his eyes open. He tried to rise but collapsed again. Too weak. "You should run," he said. "They'll kill you for this." She didn't answer. Instead, she walked into the hall and stood in front of the monster. The master chef stopped a few steps from her. He tilted his head slightly, amused. "You?" he said in a deep, calm voice. "The little cleaner girl?" I'm not your cleaner anymore, she replied. And I'm not afraid. You should be. That nectar in your lab was worth a moon. He stepped closer. Return the source. I'll forget you ever interfered. You'll walk free. Zelia's fingers tightened around the rod. What's the price of walking free while someone else suffers? She asked. He paused, then smiled under his mask. You sound like one of them now, he said. Emotional, foolish. But I see him as one of us. The chef stepped closer, slowly drawing the neutron cleaver from his belt. Celia backed up, slightly heart-pounding. Last chance, he said, move. She didn't. So he struck. The cleaver came down fast. Too fast. But she rolled, the blade smashing into the wall where she'd stood. She swung the rod, striking his arm. It bounced off like it hit stone. He knocked her across the hall with one swipe. She hit the wall hard, groaning, but stood up again. He raised the cleaver once more. Crash. Suddenly, a bottle flew through the air and smashed against his face, releasing golden nectar that splattered like burning oil. He screamed. Behind him, Elliot stood, trembling, barely able to walk, but standing. He had crawled out and used the last of his strength to destroy the very thing they all wanted. The chef roared in rage, blind from the splash, and charged. But now Zelia was ready. She swung her rod into a live power line on the wall, sparking it alive, then jabbed it into the chef's chest. Boom, electricity surged through him. He screamed, body shaking, then collapsed in a heap of smoke and sparks. Silence. Then Elliot fell to his knees. Celia caught him. You idiot, she said, smiling through tears. That was the last bottle. Good, Elliot whispered. Let them starve. They didn't wait. They stole a broken scout bike from a nearby hangar and disappeared into the underdistrict tunnels before more enforcers could arrive. By dawn, they were far outside the city, past the dome fields, past the zones where drones flew. No more cameras. No more nets. Just wind. Just sky. They found a quiet place near a waterfall made of blue mist and slept in the grass for the first time in days. Elliot wasn't bleeding. Zelia wasn't running. And the galaxy felt just a little less cruel. Later, as Elliot sat beside the stream, he looked at her. You risked everything for someone you didn't know. I didn't save a stranger, she said softly. I saved the only one who reminded me of what being alive really means. He looked down. Do you think they'll come for me again? She thought for a moment. They'll try, but they don't understand what happened. What happened? She smiled gently. You're not their flavor anymore. You've become something else. What's that? A free man. The last bottle days passed. Far beyond the towers of Zarkon City, across fields of glowing mushrooms and sky-colored rivers, the human and the alien girl found peace, or something close to it. Zelia built a shelter out of crashed drone parts. Elliot healed slowly under the soft alien sun. The marks where tubes had once drained his blood faded, but the pain in his memories stayed sharp. Every night, he saw the lab, the bottles, the faces that tasted his life like wine, and always, Celia's voice whispering, they won't find us. He wanted to believe that. But peace in the galaxy never lasted. It started with a spark. One morning, Zelia noticed strange lights in the sky, silver dots blinking in perfect lines. Not birds, not clouds, search drones. Later that day, Elliot found strange footprints near the stream. Not hers. Not his. Something was coming. Something had found them. That night, they sat beside the fire. Elliot stared into the flames. They'll come again, he said. You should go, leave me. I'll slow them down. Zelia shook her head. I didn't pull you out of that lab just to watch you give up now. He smiled weakly. You're still a terrible liar. But she didn't smile back. Her hands tightened around something in her pouch. A bottle, a single vial of human nectar. It had been hidden in Elliot's belt pouch all along. He stared at it in shock. You kept it? I didn't mean to. she said quickly. I found it while we escaped. I thought it was empty, but it's not. It glowed faintly golden and thick. His blood. His life. One final bottle. He took it from her and stared at it for a long time. Then he looked up. This is the last one, isn't it? She nodded. He held it up. The firelight danced through it. Then, we destroy it, he said, but just as he moved to throw it into the flames, a voice boomed behind them. Don't. They turned. A group of aliens stepped out of the dark, tall, armored, deadly. At their head stood a woman in shimmering robes and gold armor. Her eyes glowed like stars. Zelia knew her name. Lady Varel, one of the richest nobles in the galaxy. Collector. Consumer and a murderer in silk. She smiled gently. We've come for the bottle. Hand it over and I promise no one dies tonight. Elliot rose slowly. You people. Drained me like an animal. Lady Varel sighed. You misunderstand. You're not an animal. You're a miracle. You're flavor itself. He held up the bottle. So that's all I am to you? To the galaxy, she said softly. Yes. You are the rarest taste ever discovered. You are art. And this, she pointed at the bottle, is your masterpiece. Her guards raised their weapons. Hand it over, or we take it by force. Zelia stepped in front of Elliot. You'll have to kill us. Lady Varel tilted her head. No, I don't want to kill you. I want you to see what happens when you defy history. That bottle can buy an entire moon colony. Do you really want to throw that away? Elliot looked down at the glowing vial. His own blood, his own pain. Everything they had stolen, now locked inside this tiny glass prison. He looked at Zelia. She nodded once. He stepped forward, holding the bottle high, and then he smashed it against the rocks. The liquid spilled out, sinking into the dirt. Gone. Forever. Lady Varel stared in shock. One of her guards whispered, No, that was the last. She took a step forward, trembling with fury. You fool! She raised her hand to give the kill order, but suddenly a loud boom echoed from the trees. Her guards turned too late. Out of the darkness, an old Earth shuttle emerged, battered but armed, its engines roaring like thunder. From its open side, a rough voice shouted, Step away from the human. It was Captain Briggs, a rogue Earth War veteran, a human resistance fighter. Behind him, more humans stood, armored and angry. Elliot's people had found him. Varel's guards opened fire. So did the resistance. Blasts of blue and red light lit up the forest. Trees exploded. Smoke covered the skies. Celia grabbed Elliot and pulled him behind cover. You okay? I think so. You? She laughed, breathless. Never been better. The battle was short. Varel tried to flee, but Briggs shot her escape pod mid-air. She was captured, alive, humiliated, and now a war criminal in the eyes of Earth's new intergalactic court. The resistance secured the area. Briggs knelt beside. Elliot. You're a legend, kid. We've been searching for you for months. Elliot just nodded, staring at the broken bottle's remains in the soil. I don't want to be a legend, he said. I just want to be human. Weeks later, Elliot stood before a crowd of thousands on New Earth Station, a human colony floating in the stars. Celia stood beside him, hand in hand. News of his survival had spread across the galaxy. The market was exposed. The Nectar trade collapsed. Alien nations debated their crimes while others sent apologies and aid. But Elliot didn't speak for revenge. He spoke for freedom. He held up a simple empty bottle and said, This is not food. This is not art. This is me. And I am not for sale. After the speech, Elliot and Zelia walked together into the night air. No guards, no hunger, no running, just stars above them, and peace at last. The galaxy would never taste him again, but it would never forget him either.